The aroma of roasted chicken fills my kitchen, wrapping around me like a comforting embrace. I can hear my son David's laughter echoing from the living room, a sound that seems to chase away the heaviness threatening to settle in my heart. As I chop vegetables, I reflect on the joyful evenings we shared, each moment an unbreakable thread woven into the fabric of our lives. I remember winter nights spent baking. David, no more than 6, perched on a stool, his eyes brimming with excitement as he watched me mix our favorite chocolate chip cookie dough. "Mom, can I help?" He practically bounces off his seat. I smile, handing him the bowl, flour dusting my fingers. His joy makes those late nights worth every sacrifice, and I bask in our connection while watching him stir with all his might. Fast forward to school plays where I spent hours sewing costumes, pouring love into each stitch as his face lit up in delight. I look back now, marveling at the bond we forged through those simple moments. The sacrifices I made felt significant, a mother's love manifesting in practical ways. But as David grew, I could not see the cracks forming beneath our years of happiness. The arrival of Catherine marked the beginning of a transformation I both anticipated and feared. I can still picture that initial family dinner. Her captivating smile masked an arrogance that subtly twisted conversations. When she dismissed my time-honored recipes, remarking how outdated they were, I felt a small piece of myself erode. David's laughter, meant to be a support, began to echo hollowly, caught between the warmth of our past and Catherine's venomous remarks. As days turned into months, her comments grew sharper, laced with thinly veiled mockery that cut deep. I would sit there, searching for David's eyes across the table, hoping for an ally. Yet his silence, that painful, lingering silence, left me feeling like a ghost in my own home as Catherine's voice rose above mine. What had I done to deserve being pushed aside? Evenings spent with family albums provided little solace. I would trace the smiles, the hugs, the moments once vibrant but now muted by Catherine's growing dominance over our lives. Each click of the camera captured threads that now felt frayed, memories threatening to dissolve like sand slipping through my fingers. I longed for the connection we once had, the fierce love that had nourished both our hearts. Now, a whirlwind of emotions courses through me, anger, hurt, and a dawning resilience. I can't remain passive any longer. My dignity as a mother beckons me to reclaim my voice, to navigate the emotional turmoil that Catherine has spread like a dark cloud over our family. I recognize that, though empty seats surround me, the warmth of our shared love and history can reignite. I will gather my strength. I will fight for my place at the table, for the recognition I deserve as David's mother, and for the bond that feels painfully distant yet eternally cherished. The first time Catherine entered our home, it felt like a whirlwind had swept through, bringing fresh energy but leaving me off balance. I still remember the laughter and excitement as she and David strolled through the door, hand in hand, her eyes sparkling like the kind of gleam you'd expect from a new fairy tale. I wanted to embrace this new chapter wholeheartedly, to be welcoming to the woman who made my son so happy. I set the dining table with my best china, arranging flowers that filled the room with their sweet fragrance. The table had seen so much joy before. It had hosted holidays, birthdays, and intimate dinners filled with stories and laughter. But as I stood back, admiring my work, the familiar sense of pride began to ebb away. Catherine's presence felt like a storm on the horizon, dark and full of unspoken judgments. Dinner began with light conversation about their recent trip to the coast, the way they described the waves crashing against the rocks, eliciting a warmth in my heart. But then Catherine, with a hint of sarcasm in her tone, turned the conversation. "I can't believe you still use that old recipe for lasagna, Margaret. Couldn't you just Google something new?" Her words were wrapped in a saccharine smile that did little to mask the barbed edges. I could feel my chest tighten. David chuckled nervously. "Mom's lasagna is classic." But his laughter felt forced, a fraying bond caught between my discomfort and his desire to please both me and Catherine, who continued to reign among us like a queen. I felt as if I had been relegated to the sidelines of my own life, a spectator rather than a participant, as Catherine's sharp comments flowed like an unchecked river. In the weeks that followed, Catherine seemed to enjoy her role. Invitations to family dinners morphed into events where I found myself sitting quietly while she took charge, micromanaging her interactions with the children, dominating discussions about plans for the holidays, and chiding David about what he could do better. The laughter around the table often drowned out my voice, leaving me feeling more like an outsider. The first time she cut me off during a family gathering, I tried to share a story about David's first day of school, hoping to revive the nostalgia that once warmed our gatherings. As I began, I noticed her eyes roll discreetly, her composure resembling an adult listening to a child's fairy tale. "That's nice, Mom, but I think our kids would prefer something a bit more modern," she interjected, smirking at the snickers around the table. The laughter stung, a sharp reminder of my place in this altered family dynamic, the invisible woman, retro and out of touch with today's world. Each encounter grew more uncomfortable. Catherine's comments shifted from passive-aggressive to outright dismissive. I can remember the football playoff gathering as I prepared a platter of snacks. When I passed a tray to Catherine, I noticed her shrug my offering aside. "Oh, Mark, they wouldn't want that. Just chips will do," she chided, gathering a crowd around her instead, laughter ringing out like a brass bell, all eyes glued to her. My hands trembled, clenching tighter around the serving tray. Each time an eye caught mine, I'd lift my chin, wearing the mask of strength I'd rehearsed in my mind. But inside, the sting of rejection pierced deeper with each subtle dismissal. I began to notice the children, my beloved grandchildren, caught in some unseen riptide of influence. Their laughter rang with a sound that felt muddled, caught between my warmth and Catherine's coolness. When they visited, they excitedly rattled off instances of activities that Catherine curated. "Grandma, we did painting with Kath," they would exclaim. I would watch their eyes filled with joy and feel a gnawing sense of loss. The fabric of my early relationships with them unraveled slowly. Every giggle became a reminder of the new boundaries around them, dictated by their mother. At night, I would sit in my favorite chair, enveloped by shadows, reflecting on the changes. I scanned the walls adorned with family photographs, tracing my finger over David's childhood snapshots, his smiles, the happiness radiating from those images, only to be reminded of how empty our bonds felt today. I wondered if it was me. Had I fallen out of touch? But deep within, a flicker of defiance began to bloom. My sacrifice through the years, my late nights, the comfort I'd always provided, were now overshadowed by Catherine's control. I would catch myself repeating the same words like a mantra. I deserve to be seen. In those quiet moments, the echoes of my memories swirled into determination. I resolved to dismantle Catherine's buildup of invisible barriers, reclaiming my place in the family, not just as a background character, but as the matriarch woven deeply into their lives. Though the battle loomed ahead, I knew this was my moment to rise, to confront the dismissive comments, to plant the seeds of change amidst the tangled vines of misunderstanding. And so I began plotting my plan to reclaim what was rightfully mine, a mother's love and place at the heart of our family. I might have been silenced, but I would not let the storm sweep me away. I would stand my ground. I sit at the kitchen table, the sunlight cutting across the surface like the lines of my resolve. The familiar sense of brewed coffee and baked bread intertwine, calming my heart. I realize it's time to step back into the light, to reclaim not just my voice, but the narrative that has slowly shifted under Catherine's influence. David has always been my rock, the embodiment of the love I poured into raising him. I can still picture the joyous times we spent together, his school projects, the late-night homework sessions where he would talk about his dreams. But since Catherine entered our lives, I feel the distance expanding like a chasm, one formed from dismissive glances and unkind remarks that have so easily seeped into our family fabric. I think back to the last family gathering where laughter echoed, yet I felt the air thicken with tension every time I tried to contribute. As Catherine exuded confidence, I instead found myself shrinking, my thoughts silenced, buried beneath layers of her charm. The anguish felt all-consuming. I'm aware of how that anguish birthed my resolve, giving it roots deeper than I ever anticipated. Lifting my coffee cup to my lips, I let the warmth spread through me, each sip filling me with clarity. I deserve to be seen, I repeat under my breath, a mantra like an anchor tethering me to my purpose. I need to gather my strength and devise a plan that will assert my place as David's mother, as a fundamental part of this family history. The intent begins to take shape. I will create moments that resist Catherine's influence, engaging David and the grandchildren in a way that's so significant they cannot overlook my presence. I think back to family traditions, Sunday dinners, baking sessions on weekends, and movie nights filled with laughter. Where I once hosted everything without a second thought, I now need to emphasize my role in every aspect of our family gatherings. Tomorrow, I will invite everyone over for dinner, a gathering I will set my heart and soul into. Each dish will be made with love and intention, the warmth of familiarity surrounding their taste, a culinary embrace they will remember. But it won't be just about the food. It will be the stories I plan to weave, memories threaded through every dish. I spend the next hours elaborating on my idea. I incorporate more than what my old recipes can offer. I'll bring in new flavors, things I've learned and experimented with over the years. I prepare for conversations I hope will ignite reminiscences hidden beneath the surface, like sparks igniting flames. I want David and the grandchildren to connect with me, to celebrate the legacy I wish to share, spacious yet full of depth. In the lull before bedtime, I pull out the family photo albums, thumbing through images faded with time. I want to show them the history they're part of, the tangible love that has shaped our lives. I fondly remember the summer trips to the beach, where David's laughter harmonized with the waves. In that laughter, I see a chance to remind everyone of the bonds shared, the love that has always been the strongest thread. Once my plans are firmed, I conjure small details that will carry the weight of affection and create an atmosphere of belonging. I rummage through my storage to find the childhood toys I saved, miniature cars, dolls, and remnants of David's young desires. I dust them off, placing them around the family room to spark nostalgia. On the day of the dinner, the house seems to hum with anticipation. I wade through the preparations, carefully placing the flowers on the table, sweeping away remnants of dust, hoping to uncover an inviting energy. The smell of roasted garlic wafts through the air, mingling delightfully with the sweetness of baking bread. As I chop fresh herbs, Each cut feels less like preparation and more like a declaration of my intentions. I want this dinner to mark a shift, an invitation for David and Catherine to step closer, to engage rather than retreat. When they arrive, I will beckon them with open arms, igniting the very essence of what I've always meant to represent: a mother, a support, and a guiding light. But there's still a flicker of anxiety that dances on the edges of my composure. Will Catherine's need for dominance overshadow my intentions? I remind myself to stand firm, to employ patience when tensions arise. After all, I'm not just reclaiming my place. I'm not merely seeking confrontation, but constructing a bridge to reclaim my voice. Through the laughter of my grandchildren, through shared stories and the acceptance of my role as their grandmother above the whims of Catherine. As dinner time approaches, I can feel my heart synchronize with the ticking clock. I take a moment alone, breathing in the aroma of roasting vegetables. I deserve to be seen, I whisper one last time, a mantra lifting my spirits and solidifying my resolve. Tonight, I will create space for laughter, for light, for the family history that cradles us all. A reminder that I am a part of this story, an irreplaceable part. The sound of the doorbell rings through the house, echoing in the quiet anticipation I've built up for this evening. I wipe my hands on a towel and force a smile, welcoming the moment I've rehearsed 1,000 times in my mind. David walks in first, his face lighting up at the sight of the table laden with a feast that feels like a warm hug. "Wow, Mom, what a spread!" He looks genuinely impressed, and for a moment my heart swells with pride. Behind him, Catherine enters, her confident stride seeming to dominate the space. I catch a glimpse of her quick glance around the room, a flicker of evaluation that sends a shiver creeping down my spine. I can sense the layers of judgment hidden behind her sweetness. I usher them to the dining table, guiding David to sit in his usual spot. As I pour him a glass of sparkling water, I notice his eyes darting between Catherine and me, perhaps sensing the underlying tension. I breathe in deeply, reminding myself to keep the atmosphere light, to focus on connection rather than confrontation. "Mom, this looks amazing," David casually praises, reaching for a serving spoon. I nod, feeling warmth ripple through me. "Thank you, sweetheart. I just wanted to remind you of all the good times we had at the dinner table." But as Catherine sits down, her presence seems to swallow the nostalgia I'm trying to create. She delicately arranges her napkin, her movements exuding a practiced elegance. "I hope this is okay," she says, her tone undoubtedly sugar-coated but rife with a sharp undertone. "I don't usually eat so indulgently." I swallow hard, the sharp remark biting my resolve. "It's an old family recipe," I reply evenly, clenching my jaw. "David always loved it." The tension hovers in the air as David half-heartedly intervenes. "Come on, Kath, everything smells delicious. We should just enjoy it." As we start to eat, I launch into the stories I'd prepared, weaving them into our meal like rich threads. I recount days at the beach, fishing trips, late-night homework struggles, all the things that made our family so tightly interwoven. They listen, and I feel David's attention shift toward me. There's promise, but then Catherine interjects, a web of disagreement woven between my stories. "David, can you believe Mom said she didn't want you to pursue football in high school? How wild is that?" Her laugh is almost chirpy but brimming with intent. David gives me an apologetic look, caught in the crossfire. "I thought we agreed to keep this positive." He glances back at her, and I see that small quiver of uncertainty creeping in, just like shadows playing on the walls. I carefully shift my gaze between them. Preservation of my connection feels fragile, like glass hanging by threads that could snap at any moment. driven by a growing need to assert myself, I navigate the conversation. Yes, I worried about the time commitment, but I always wanted you to pursue your passions, David. I would have supported you even then. David nods slowly, the flicker of remembrance brightening his eyes. Yeah, I know, Mom. Catherine, undeterred, laughs lightly again. That's true, but honestly, in the end, look how far you've come. You are doing so well, after all. There's a deliberate attempt to frame my love as a stifling force rather than the support I was. I'm proud of you, regardless, I assert, taking a sip of water while the ache in my chest builds. It's not enough to shield me from the implication of her words, but it's important to recognize that, too. The evening continues in a precarious dance, where every laugh hangs beside a shadowed remark, each smile intertwined with veiled barbs. As the meal progresses, however, I focus on creating intentional moments of connection through laughter and shared memories despite the looming threats of Catherine's taunts. Throughout the night, I start observing Catherine's behavior more keenly. She navigates conversations like a skilled puppeteer. Every time David lifts his fork to say something, she swipes her hand through the moment, redirecting attention back to her, subtly undermining any recognition I attempt to build. Each eye roll is like a knife, tearing at threads of what I've worked hard to weave. Later, as we shift to dessert, I find warmth in the familiarity of the dishes I had prepared. Chocolate lava cake, a personal favorite of David's, melts, oozing promise on each plate, while I catch a tender smile escaping from him as he takes a spoonful. You really outdid yourself, Mom, he beams, and for a flickering moment, hope rekindles within me. But Catherine's smirk reappears, creeping like weeds around newly planted seeds. It looks like someone is going to have to start watching their waistline, she chides, positioned boastfully, and my heart sinks at the contrast of compliments made into jabs. In that moment, I realize that her need to assert control isn't solely aimed at me. It's a push against David as well. I believe in balance, I counter, trying to emanate confidence. Life is about enjoying the sweetness too, not just denial. My voice carries a steadiness that belies the storm of emotions swirling beneath. As the dinner draws to a close, I take a breath, knowing I must summon the courage to confront the elephant in the room. Catherine, I think it's time we talked about some boundaries, I declare, my voice firm yet steady, defying the tremors that laced through me. The weight of tension crescendos in the air, and I can see it etched on David's face, a mix of concern and anticipation. Catherine's eyebrows raise, a feigned innocence plastered across her features. Boundaries? What are you talking about, Margaret? This is it, I think. This moment could shift everything. I can sense that I am caught in the tightrope between reclaiming my place in the family and facing Catherine's fierce insistence on control. But my resolve solidifies. Tonight marks the end of her quiet wars. Boundaries, I repeat, my breathing steadying, for our time together as a family. I want to ensure that we all recognize each other's roles, respect them, just like the love that surpasses through all this, because I deserve to be seen, Catherine. The last words feel like an anthem, and I look around the table feeling a synchronous heartbeat in the room. David meets my gaze, and I see a flicker of understanding deepen behind his eyes. Despite the turmoil surrounding us, he looks at Catherine with something new, a hint of resilience shining through the uncertainty. The room goes silent, and I can almost hear the future splitting wide open. A suffocating silence settles among us after my declaration. Time seems to suspend in the air, each second stretching beyond its bounds. I can feel Catherine's eyes narrowing, assessing me with all the analytical prowess of a chess player anticipating her opponent's next move. I brace myself for the rebuttal to come, yet the unexpected response feels just out of reach. Boundaries, she finally echoes, but her voice rings with incredulity. And who exactly set those boundaries, Margaret? You don't reserve any right to dictate how we run our family dinners. The initial nervousness in my stomach manifests into a restless energy, but with each breath I take, I remind myself of my mantra, I deserve to be seen. David's expression transforms from uncertainty to concern. Catherine, Mom's right. We all have feelings in this family. He interjects, the tremor in his voice evident. I can see a small flicker of defiance begin to spark in David, one I hadn't anticipated when I first planted my feet to stand my ground. Catherine pulls herself up, shoulders squared, ready for battle. Feelings? Wow, this sounds so incredibly dramatic. Were the last few dinners that miserable for you, Mom? She retorts, her laughter sharp-edged. What if you just took a step back and let things be? I can see how her words wrap around David, entangling him in her web, a familiar manipulation. The dynamics of our family squared against his mother in his glare. I sense the tug-of-war for his loyalty begin as Catherine initiates her campaign. Yet, even with the tension pulling taut across the room, I feel my resolve harden. No, Catherine, it's about normalizing respect for our experiences and legacies in this family. You don't get to dictate how our history is remembered. I say it softly, but my words carry a weight that compels them to settle like stones in the air. For a fleeting moment, I catch a glimpse of hesitation in her cold demeanor. It's the first crack I've seen, a window of vulnerability she desperately tries to keep hidden beneath layers of bravado. It's all too familiar. I see my son mirrored in her, the push-pull of wanting to please versus feeling overshadowed. Margaret, she switches her tone, feigning concern. Maybe you should consider stepping back. David's life now includes me, and we have children who need understanding too. The last words spill out, laced with condescension, and they strike deeper than intended. You talk about boundaries, but it sounds like you only want to control what happens in your realm. Can't we all just get along? Her attempt at smoothing over the tension carries the same sense of centrality I've encountered before, a breach-like barrier against my love for David. I refuse to buckle under that pressure this time. I'll not allow my voice to be muted by the very person wrapped in my son's day-to-day life. Instead, I look toward David. Sweetheart, we've had a history of love, a nurturing home, safety, and support. I reach for his hand, letting the warmth bridge the chasm widening between us. Your happiness and the children's should remain at the forefront, but it doesn't mean that your mother should fade into the background. That's not fair. I have not ceased to exist. His eyes soften for a heartbeat, clarity mixing with love. There's something he's beginning to recognize. I can feel a pull shifting, an alignment in our shared history, stretching from those childhood summers filled with warmth and laughter all the way to this moment. I never meant to overshadow you, Mom, David finally acknowledges, his voice steady yet gentle like an embrace. The words cut through the mounting tension like sunlight breaking through a stormy sky. Catherine, I think we need to create a balance. Mom has always been a strong presence in my life, and it sounds like we could all benefit from each other's strengths. Catherine's demeanor tightens, but I can see discontent rolling off her in waves. She's edging closer to feeling threatened, her control slipping through her fingers like sand. Well, I'm not sure we need to include her way of doing things, she draws out, an inflection of needled control hanging in every syllable. No. David stands firm, his gaze unwavering now. We need to figure this out openly. How can this come together? This dinner isn't just about food, Catherine. It's about family. Shifts in conviction ripple through him. At that moment, I realize a turning point is upon us. The tide is shifting beneath the surface. I refuse to let Catherine sway the current. I lock eyes with David and see that the flicker is becoming a flame in his understanding. David, I say, my voice warm yet resolute, I want you to feel comfortable bridging both our worlds. Your happiness matters deeply to me. Our bond is immense. I see you struggle without meaning to. Know that Catherine is not the adversary in this family. Rather, we can coexist beautifully if we honor pasts while crafting our futures. Catherine opens her mouth to retort, but David speaks over her. Catherine, I'm saying we need to respect the journey each of us took to get here. If we don't, we'll continue teetering on this precarious line, neglecting who we really are. Together, it's there in his words I sense hope, merging with the resolve I hold. I look at Catherine, who appears deflated now, her rebuttals floundering beneath their significance. For the first time tonight, I catch a hint of uncertainty flickering in her expression, one I've seldom observed before. The dialogue shifts, gradually morphing into conversations that recognize the nuances in our family dynamic, how we can each celebrate who we are while cherishing one another's roles. The push and pull I felt in our interactions now feels less like opposition and more like reconciliation. As the story unfolds, I embrace the lightness of laughter, weaving it tightly back into our conversation. Family anecdotes float in and out, a soothing balm on the layers of tension, rekindling the warmth tethered to our memories. Each story shared now feels like a tribute, not just to the past, but a promise toward our future. Remember that time we got lost at the amusement park? David quips, his face breaking into a grin, with Catherine's laughter slowly following his buoyancy. I can feel the boundaries of tension dissolve into a collective warmth, their energy mingling with the kitchen aromas that surrounded us. As laughter spills forth from our table, I sense a sense of renewal cascading through our gathering, a sense of unearthing closeness. The ties binding us, once frail, now feel strengthened, reinforced with understanding, recognition, and healing. In that moment, I silently resolve, I deserve to be seen, a mantra that finally encapsulates the love I carry, the intricate bond I strive to uphold. Here, amidst discarded barriers, love reigns as it always should, rejuvenating my heart and connecting us in ways I reiterate. A family rich in stories, diverse in strengths, yet unified through love. This is the turning point, and I embrace it. The atmosphere shifts like warm light spilling through clouds as laughter dances around the table. The meld of old stories and familial warmth fills the space. I take a slow breath, allowing the moment to wash over me and cement my resolve. This is the family I've always fought for, the one where love prevails over discord. Remember the Halloween you dressed up as that flying squirrel? I nudged David's memory playfully, my heart growing buoyant at the sight of him as a child. The laughter envelops us again, a soft thread pulling at the fabric of our lives. Catherine deflects effortlessly, her need for control a faraway echo against our surrounding harmony. Or the time he climbed that tree and we thought we'd lost him, she chimes in, her tone flatter than she intended. Nevertheless, David glances at me, a shared understanding sparking behind his eyes. Fatalistic laughter brightens the room, a bridge stitched from the past into our presence. As the evening flows, I remain vigilant. Beneath the embracing laughter lies the undercurrent of our dynamic, the subtle sway of alliance. Catherine still stands as the central figure in David and the children's life, but as the shadows of authority begin to soften, I prepare to further assert my place. With dessert plates cleared and the lingering sweetness of chocolate lava cake lingering, I decide it's time to put my next steps into motion. I've laid the groundwork for trust. Now, it's crucial to align our family's narrative. David, I initiate, my voice slicing through the gentle chatter. I wanted to talk about the upcoming family trip. You know, we've always been a close-knit family during those times. I watch as his brow furrows slightly, uncertainty clinging to the corners of his lips. Catherine leans forward, curiosity piqued. "Oh, are you planning a family outing?" she asks, the sweet veneer of her voice sugar-coating her grace. It doesn't escape me how this is a potential threat. She won't willingly cede control over these moments. "Yes," I affirm, the warmth in my chest igniting once more. "I've been thinking we could take the kids to the cabin this summer. A chance for all of us to reconnect like we used to. Remember the wildflower hikes and bonfires? Each shared memory is a thread, linking our experiences to create an invitation for belonging." Catherine's expression transforms, an amalgamation of interest and apprehension brewing beneath her composed exterior. "That does sound nice, but..." Her voice floats, the start of familiar sentences laden with hesitation. "Who will organize everything? It's a lot of work, and with the kids' activities..." I cut in, refusing to let doubt surface. "I would love to help organize everything. We can split responsibilities. From setting the itinerary to planning meals, it can be a cooperative effort. And maybe, this time, each family member can contribute stories to share by the fire." My words linger, weighted with sincerity. David glances between Catherine and me before speaking up. "Mom's right. The cabin would bring us back to our roots. Let's allow ourselves to be a family again without reservations." Each word acts as a balm, sealing the fractures laid thick across our conversations. Catherine seems to shift in her seat, uncertainty threading through her carefully composed exterior. "Well," she begins slowly, "I suppose if we all work on it together, it could be manageable." There is a hint of defeat lacing her acknowledgement, and I enjoy the small crack that splinters her facade. "Absolutely," I reply, fueled by momentum. "We can rotate on meal prep, plan activities for the kids, and create schedules to keep things flowing. It could revive a beautiful sense of connection. The kids would enjoy it." I see her bite down on her tongue, but her posture has weakened. The conversations shift as David and I begin brainstorming what to pack and essential activities to incorporate. A dance of ideas enveloped in the excitement that spins throughout the room. The kids could fish with their grandparents, play hide and seek amidst the trees, and recount stories of their family adventures around the fireside. The more we discuss it, the clearer the path ahead feels. Yet, a familiar voice interrupts my euphoric thought, requiring my attention. Catherine stands, her composure returning like the proverbial eye of the storm. "I just think we need people to ensure coherence, structure," she emphasizes, her eyes narrowing slightly. "If you're so set on this idea, maybe outlining clearer expectations would help." I pause, summoning the calm within me, fighting against the instinct to cower back against her critique. "You're right, Catherine. A plan would be essential for eliminating confusion. We can sit down and draft expectations together." Sharing responsibility begins with open lines of communication. The evening continues to unfurl like pages from a book, light moments woven tightly with a necessary struggle that exists beneath the surface. Each member of our family participates, revealing hearts tucked within layers of the past, yet yearning to reclaim their own stories, tethered together against the commonalities we create anew. As we pile our plates to the side, laughter mingling with remnants of dessert, I glance back at the children, a precious reminder that my desires extend beyond confrontation. They curl tightly around the safety, love, and connections established far beyond childhood years. "Let's make this cabin trip happen," David says, his voice ringing clear like a bell through the fabric of our evening. It becomes the heartbeat framing our family's futures as David offers to draft our itinerary. He smiles warmly, turning to Catherine, who meets his gaze brimming with hope and uncertainty. "It's settled then," I declare, raising my glass for one last toast. To family, to rekindling bonds, honoring past memories and creating new traditions, to establishing a unit that thrives off communication, love, and respect. We are all intertwined. As we clink our glasses together, soft laughter and shared warmth fluttering around, I realize I am reclaiming the love that belongs to me. I see all the pieces falling into place. In that moment, I smile softly. The night cascades forward, not just as a dinner, but as a newfound commitment to gather our fragmented family, reminding ourselves of the strength we possess in resilience. I feel buoyed by the sense of renewal, grateful for the peace assembling around us, embracing the truth of my belief that my presence and my voice should never fade away. The weeks leading up to our cabin trip swirl with anticipation. My home buzzes with shared conversations, and the scent of fresh-baked cookies fills the air every time the phone buzzes with new ideas. The planning unfolds like a delicate web, each thread woven tight with growing excitement and hope. I feel the ripple of change. Catherine's control loosens as we work side by side. Every meeting feels like a test of wills, primed for her to reclaim dominance. "Let's focus on things the kids will love," she states, her voice teetering just at the edge of command. There's a tug-of-war brewing, but I choose to respond with calm resolve rather than defensive ire. "No, I think a fishing trip in the afternoons would be fun," I suggest, buoyed by cherished memories. "Remember how David loved it?" David nods in affirmation, and I see Catherine's assertive facade tremble. As days pass, the trip evolves from a thought into a concrete adventure, mixing nostalgia with renewed relationships. Saturday arrives with crystal clear skies, an emblem of hope stretching before us. We load the car, David driving, the kids brimming with anticipation in the back seat, their voices rising in laughter like a melody. As we approach the cabin, a wave of familiarity envelops me. It feels like stepping into a cherished memory, sunlight filtering through the trees and weaving warm strands of history. Unpacking quickly becomes a delightful chaos. David and Catherine tumble out to explore while I gather the essentials for our meals. I arrange the dining area with familiar precision, feeling the buzz of excitement settle in my chest. "Who wants to start the bonfire?" I call out. Jessica and Jake leap at the chance, their tiny hands eager to help. The flickering flames cast warm glows and David's storytelling draws us in. "Remember the fish I caught?" He laughs. "I thought I'd reel in a whale." I nudge the kids, whispering conspiratorially, "He almost lost it in the sand." The laughter melts the remnant distance between us. But as we share, I can see Catherine's discomfort rise. "Our kids need guidance. You can't let them run wild," she asserts, attempting to draw lines again. "Of course, they need direction. But we're here to share joy and connection too," David gently counters. I can see him beginning to shift toward my side of the conversation. A small victory swells in my chest. As night embraces us, the stories continue to spill, like the flames dancing in the pit. I lean back and close my eyes, allowing the warmth of laughter and shared memories to wash over me. The combination feels like a pulse reaching deep into my heart. "Let's make this a summer tradition," I suggest, feeling a swell of determination. The kids beam, their faces alight with hope. Catherine holds her silence, still poised for control, but there's a shift in her demeanor. I can sense that she feels the love we have been weaving. It might even crack her carefully curated rigidity. "We could make this trip a chance for new stories," David adds, his voice slicing through the tension. Silently, I chant my mantra. I deserve to be seen. I The warmth encircles me as I watch our family brightening at the fire, a living recollection of our shared narrative, vibrant with the hope of a future entwined in love. With laughter echoing beneath the starlit sky, the experience evolves beyond mere tradition. We're reconnecting the threads of our past and forging new ones, reinforcing our familial tapestry against obstacles faced. I no longer feel lost within the shadows. Instead, I stand resolute, knowing I am integral to this journey. Tonight, enveloped in warmth and renewed bonds, I revel in the truth that my presence carries weight. Together, we are reclaiming our identity, not just as individuals, but as a family. We're crafting a narrative that embraces laughter, love, and most importantly, resilience.